Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Robin Shine, and get ready for another episode where I introduce you to another amazing, interesting, intriguing, and inspiring African-American man from the United States. They come from a variety of professions, various parts of this nation, and all of them bring their wisdom. So, chill out, relax, and listen in. Make sure you follow us. We're on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, you can go to 365brothers.com/Linktree, LINKTREE, 365 Brothers /Linktree. You'll find links to all things 365 Brothers, as well as links to anything Robin Shine. Again, thank you, and let's listen in. Our guest today is the son of a diplomat who was born in Chad in 1982 and has resided in the United States since he was 5 years old. He's both an educator and an artist whose preferred mediums are oil paint, spray paint, and watercolor. He started in Baltimore City teaching elementary school art. And in 2005, he moved to Prince George's County in Maryland, where he taught public school. And he currently teaches in Norwood School in Bethesda, Maryland. He's been an educator for about 18 years. And consistent with his love of art, he earned his bachelor's degree in illustration from Towson University, and then went on to earn a graduate degree in educational studies from Johns Hopkins University. He speaks fluent French and Portuguese. He also understands Chadian Arabic and is currently learning Spanish. And I don't know if y'all know, but the more languages you learn, the more your brain is like processing stuff. So that plus being an artist, I already know this conversation is going to be on point. So today we have the privilege of speaking to Batlina Boulandi. So Bat, welcome.
I really thank you for this opportunity. It's a blessing to finally be able to see you through this technological device. It's good to see and hear your voice.
Thank you. Before we go into the questions, is there anything you'd like to share with the listeners to help them get to know you better?
Well, I'm the oldest of 6 children. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always had that. Looking back, like I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I always wanted to do what I wanted to do. You know, I hated school. I did not like school. I remember swearing in 4th grade that I would not ever be a teacher because I hated it. I didn't understand why we had to go. I hated it. But I mean, I enjoyed my childhood. I like to travel. You know, I've been around, been to many countries. I'm preparing to go to Brazil next Friday. I can't wait. It's been like 15 years since I was last there. That's like my home. I love it. I love Brazil. I love it so much. But I dance. Breakdancing is my like preferred style of dance right now. I've been doing that for like over 20 years. But house music I love house. It's liberating. It's very spiritual, as I'm a spiritual person.
Well, I especially love a couple things. One, you know, we don't find a lot of people who are both aficionados of breakdancing or dancers of breakdancing. So that's kind of cool, right? Because like I remember watching it. That's my era. And then the other thing is, you said Brazil is like your second home. What is it about Brazil that makes that what you consider your second home?
I think it's more so African presence there, you know, that resonates to me. But it's like it's just got this charm there. I've always loved South America since I was a child. Like I always thought that was like the sister or cousin or relative to Africa because they look so similar, you know. And then 1st grade, my teacher pointed to Brazil. I didn't know what that was, but it sounded interesting. And that's where the curiosity started. And I just one day started reading the encyclopedia and I went to Brazil. That was the section I went to. And then that's when I saw, there's Black people there. You know, I thought it was a Latin country, but I didn't know that it had this like strong African, you know, Black presence there. And it's influenced Brazil so much to the point that like their Portuguese, their accent was influenced by the African presence, you know, their music, Their style of dance, the capoeira. Most Brazilians will tell you that they have some drop of African in them, whereas here it's the reverse, it's the inverse. Most people can say that they have, a drop or more of Caucasian, European, whatever. But it's just so fascinating that you can see it in even though the people who consider themselves white, you can still see that African in them. It's just a magical place, Yeah.
A lot of times, a lot of people in America, in the United States, excuse me, do not realize how dark the people are in Brazil, in Panama, in Colombia,
Right.
because we just think we watch the movies in the movies because they are influenced by colorism, just like our movies in the United States tend to overemphasize white over the actual, collection of hues. Yeah. So anyway, by the way, listeners, you can't see him, but he's just shaking his head like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's true. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I could go all night just going all over here to there. So what is the favorite song or movie, either now or all time?
Okay, song. It's my favorite song. I feel like I'm married to this song, and the person that I meet that is my significant other, whatever, has to be like I have to love that person as equally as I do to this song. I love this song. I'm not tired of it. It's called "How Big Is Your World" by Ninth Wonder, produced by Ninth Wonder, and it's a track with Median. Median's the rapper on that track, and it's just got this like nostalgic sound. It's my theme. My friend kind of jokingly says that's your theme song. I discovered it in 2004 at my friend's house, and I've never stopped listening to it since. I love that song. I love the melody. But as far as movie goes, I'm sorry this is hard, but I got to say two. One is City of God, and the other is Blade Runner. And of course, City of God takes place in Brazil. It's authentic, and it showcases like the more in the shanty towns, but like you see Black Brazilians, it's an interesting movie. It's about drug trafficking and the life of many individuals, that are living in the shanty towns, and what they deal with. And so I got to see that in person, and I got to visit City of God when I was in Brazil, and I got to meet and hang out with the actors from. Yeah. But then Blade Runner, I love just because it's a classic film. I like the old Blade Runner. I like the new one too, but it's just a really interesting film. I love the technology. I like how dark it is. It's always dismal. It's rainy. It kind of captures what the US or the world thought the world would look or could look like, because at that time when the movie was created, people thought that Japan was going to be ruling the world because they were going at making an economic strides, So you can see a huge Japanese or Asian theme in the facades of the building, all of that. But it's just a really cool futuristic film that I've always loved, and it reminds me of my childhood as well.
I never connected the time that it was made with the Japanese influence, like, because it's there, right? And you're like, and I remember watching it thinking, why is all that there? Like, why is that like that? Because I didn't see it for the first time until the 2000 teens. And so I'd forgotten, the 80s, basically. So, thank you for that, because that explains a lot. It's so dismal. Even the music, it's just, dun, dun, dun.
Oh my gosh, it is. Oh man. Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to tell you, with all the rain that we've had out here and the snowstorms, I'm kind of like,
And it takes place in LA.
Right?
That's the crazy part. Yeah.
Maybe like, what's his name? George Orwell in 1984. Somebody was prescient.
Yes, definitely. I think that book, the movie was inspired by Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about a favorite childhood moment. What is a moment from your childhood that stands out as among your favorites?
I would say when I was about 5 years old, that was the first time I ever saw somebody spinning on their head. I remember that was on TV. I don't know if it was Crush Groove or I don't know what movie it was. Definitely wasn't Beach Street or the Break-In movie. It was something else. And I, to this day, can't find that movie that I witnessed when I was 5, but I saw it and I was like, how is it that this person didn't break his neck? And how's that possible? That doesn't make sense. That's where I got the inspiration, to want to learn how to do it. And I finally, like 12 years later, I learned how. That's when I was introduced and I found someone. I was looking since I was like in 6th grade. I was looking for it, like asking people around. And it was hard because it was super underground. It went underground after, I'll say the early 90s, late 80s, it's went down. But it went underground and it was raw but hard to find someone. And if you found someone, it was hard to get them to teach you,
Right.
Because
it's because of liability.
Yeah, that too. I didn't think about that. That's very true, liability.
Here, I'm gonna just let you spin on your head. You're gonna be okay. Oh.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it was hard. But then it just happened. Like everything I can say in hindsight, most of the things that I've asked for, I received. I got. Wow. Just not in the way that I wanted it, maybe, or the timing, but I got it. And this breakdancing was one of them since I was 5. And I had to wait this long period of time to finally meet the right people to get me involved. And because of that, now like I got friends who are internationally known or like they're running things in DC as artists, because of that desire. Like, so just by my presence or being around them, and I don't know, somehow it changed the trajectory of life. And now they're doing big. Yeah.
So have you done that where you can spin on your head?
Yeah, that was like the trick that I like first learned, like head spins. And I was using a helmet at the time, skateboard.
That's where you started?
Yeah, because when you get into breakdancing, like you want to learn the flashy moves. Most people don't think to learn the style or the form of dancing and the foundations. You just want to go straight to the cool looking moves.
True that.
So I was like, I want to learn how to do a head spin. I want to learn power moves. That's what they're called. And that was the thing. And then I just started to draw away from power and move more into style. I think there's just the artist in me, that spiritual like lack of boundaries. You can just come up with whatever. You're just an ever-changing sculpture. That's all it is. This is a beautiful form. Happy that it was created by some children in New York, just on the street, Puerto Rican and African American children. It was interesting. To a Jamaican guy who was looping beats or like, just playing at parties or whatever, like at street parties. It's interesting how that all came together. But
it is interesting in the way that you just described it. It's the first time, like I'm just now discovering myself as an artist. No, I'm sorry. I'm owning that I'm an artist. I've been doing different things, but never owned it. Like, oh, that's who I am. And so I'm in the exploration of what is an artist and what is art, right? And when you use the word that it's a form of sculpture, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, because all the positions they land in, or knee on the ankle on the knee, hand over on the ear, and you leaning all on one elbow.
There you go.
I only now really appreciate it as I really get that it's an artistic expression in which the body is the medium. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Thank you, because I will not watch it the same ever again.
That's cool. I'm glad you made that. You've chosen to change your perspective. That's really cool. I'm glad I was able to help you do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always appreciated it, but now I really get the art of it versus, a trendy dance thing that happened in the 80s. So anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about accomplishments. And, for me, obviously, my awe is you did the head spin, but this is why I don't ask what I'm interested in. I ask about the two that stand out for you. First, the accomplishment that means the most to you personally, and then the accomplishment that most often when other people hear it, gets the ooh or wow. So let's start with the first. Which accomplishment is the one that means the most to you personally, Bat?
Okay. So getting certified was a major accomplishment for me because, again, I didn't want to teach. I fought education or becoming a teacher since like I said, fourth grade. I had to take these tests. I had to go through all kinds of hula hoops and while teaching and take on a master's degree while teaching and studying for these tests and spending the money, that I didn't want to spend. It was just very arduous and taxing. And at the same time, it was my first year ever teaching. Like when I got into the program and everything. So it was just very, very tough, mentally, emotionally, everything. But I made it through. And because I did that, it gave me the foundation and the belief in myself that if I apply myself, no matter what, I can accomplish anything that's possible, And after I achieved that, passing 3 tests, writing, reading, math, and then a content specified exam. That's 2 parts. And it's very long. And then taking a course and teaching and working with the Baltimore City youth. That was tough, but I did it. And it showed me that I can accomplish anything. I just have to focus and develop a system because it's systems that work, that help you get to your goal and your destination. It's your map. If you don't have a system, you're just walking around and you're just going around aimlessly. That would have to be my personal accomplishment that I do celebrate,
Just yesterday or today, I was talking with a fellow teacher, and we were talking about teachers in their first year. And I was telling her how I remember it was not a colleague like at my school, but in any case, that there were teachers who would talk about coming home and crying.
Yeah.
On a regular, not like this one day I came home and cried, but because it is, that first year, it's like being thrown into the ocean and they don't just ask you to swim. They say, swim, pull the buoy, make sure you don't lose any of the people who are holding on to the buoy, make it to the shore, keep them fed and motivated. Go.
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect description. Everything you just explained. It's perfect, exact. Yeah, it's exhausting. I wish that was like a community service option or mandatory. I hope this can. I don't know. I hope I can meet some politician that can really make things happen. One day. But community service, I feel people should be required, or the youth should be required to spend a day to a month in a hospital or anything requiring service and working with people. So teachers, nurses, I don't know, even bus driver, even a police officer, just in the rough parts, so they can see this is what they deal with, and it'll give them perspective, and they're serving the community at the same time. And hopefully it'll change them, so that they're more compassionate, because that's the one thing, compassion and patience. I remember I wasn't like that, but I went through some stuff that changed me, to give me that. But I believe everyone should, if they can, let's spend a day as a teacher and learn how to prepare the lesson too, and manage the children and manage the emails that come at you too, and the requests, all that.
I love your idea about having a service requirement. I know Israel has a requirement that all high school graduates serve in their military, and I love it. I think if it were a graduation requirement, it would be great. Yeah. I love that, but I get the power in juggling all that and getting to the end and going, okay, wait a minute, I did all that. Look at me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the accomplished that is the one that most often gets the or wow from others.
Okay, so this is something I don't typically share, but because you asked this question, I illustrated a book. And yeah, I keep it like a secret because I don't like gloating. I feel like I'm like showing off, or that's something I don't like. Really, I do keep it a secret, and it's not fair for the author, but like I just don't like attention. That's what it is. So somehow people discover my book, or they Google my name and they're like, "Oh, is this you?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they get it and they're like, "What? Is this you? You did this?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I forget that I can do that too. I forget I know how to like draw and paint. It's just not on my mind. Even though I teach art, it just doesn't register in my mind that I can do that. Like I have this power to do it. But yeah, just I ended up reading this book to like the whole elementary school at my school about 2-3 weeks ago, and I was nervous because and they all are seeing that I did this book, and then I know that like all throughout the day people are going to come to me and they're going to start saying things about the book or talking to me. I'm going to get embarrassed, or I don't know how to explain it, but I'd say that's the to answer your question, that's the reaction I get from other people that say, wow, like, wow, you did that. Oh my gosh. Every single time. It's that book.
That's very cool. As an emerging artist myself, I'm just, you're right. Because I'm like, wow, really? Wow.
Yeah.
So it's real. When I'm like, my cell phone over here, really? Wow.
Yeah.
How did that opportunity come to you?
It's all serendipitous, like a silver lining connection. So I used to, when I was living in Baltimore, I used to have this, I used to go to a tailor. It's like my personal tailor. And in his studio, he had like other partners there. And one of his partners was kind of like raised by the author that I ended up like illustrating and working for this book. And she was a wonderful woman. Her name is Dr. Margaret Musgrove. She's written 2 books, Ashanti to Zulu and The Spider Weaver. She's like fantastic, wise woman, beautiful woman. But she considered him to be a son, and she calls me her son too. She just adopted all the children in her neighborhood.
So
and she's from
mentioned he knew about your artistic expressions.
Yeah.
And he mentioned it to her, and she's like, connect us. And now here you are, a published artist.
There you go. Yes. Thank you. You made it simpler, a lot more direct. But yeah, that's the story. You got
it. That's what I do.
Exactly. Fantastic. Yeah.
I love that. I tell my students this all the time, and it doesn't matter if you're a student, you're an adult, whatever, that people are watching all the time, and you don't know who other people know. So you just go ahead and be your full self-expressed, share what you're up to in life, because you don't know who's going to say, oh, by the way, it's like, I love that. I love that story. And thank you so much for sharing that. Let's talk about words. What is the favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
Okay, so seek to understand before being understood is like it's like my mantra. It's to help me tame my ego. I try to not listen to my ego because it's not my amigo. I always try to not listen to it or focus on my emotions and the way I'm feeling. And I try to like see the other person's perspective. To help me gain, like understand what they could be possibly feeling. And to humble myself. Kind of also diffuse the situation if they feel misunderstood or anything like that, or like hurt. Like I said, I use that all throughout the day, every day. To myself, I say it whenever there's an altercation or like a minor issue. Yeah.
Is there a grade level you work with more than any other, or just elementary general for art?
Yeah, it's elementary. So I work with pre-K through 4th grade. That's our school is set up. But my favorite, and it's always been my Goldilocks grade, 2nd grade. Love 2nd grade. They're the best. A coworker of mine in like my 4th year teaching pointed that out. She's like, yeah, you're good with 2nd grade. That's your grade. And I was like, really? I think it's all grades. But And then afterwards, the more the other schools I worked at, like I saw it's second grade that I love. I love second grade. But this year, the second graders that I had last year, they're now third graders. I still think they're in second grade. They're magical. But the second graders this year are magical as well. They're independent enough to be creative and still want to do the activities. They're like kindergartners or first graders. They're still happy and innocent.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah. Like I can teach them techniques. I can teach them like challenging techniques, and they can actually do it,
Wow.
So that's just a sweet grade. No talk back, it's just everything works with second grade. I love that grade. I love it. I don't want them to grow up, but there's been too many of my second graders that are now like in their 20s, 30s. It's crazy.
The reason I asked you about the grade level you teach is because with that being your favorite quote, I was curious because I know that as an educator, that means that you are committed to being in their world, right?
Yeah.
And being over there where they are and bringing them to you versus, just trying to bring them to you without going over there where they are. Mm-hmm. And so I was just curious which grades were benefiting most from that. Mm. Yeah. I imagine you were going to say something like fourth, fifth, sixth. I subbed before I started teaching, and second grade was the grade where I knew I should teach high school. That I knew for a fact that I loved high school because I subbed one day second grade, and my last name was Davis at the time, my maiden name. Mm-hmm. And by a little bit after lunch, somebody said my name one too many times. And, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And somebody was hitting them or something, and this girl said, Miss Davis, he hit me. And I said, hit him back.
Oh my God.
And at that moment I went, this ain't your grade.
Yeah. I understand. I get that. They call my name. They talk to me 3 at a time, thinking I'm going to listen to them and answer them. And I always tell them I have 2 ears for one voice. That's it. If you keep talking to me, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to the one person I was working with. So you have to be considerate. I try to teach them too. Like, be aware, understand I'm a person and everybody around you is a person. And it's not just about you. It's everybody around you. So just be patient and understand that you're going to get your turn too. Because they're learning the world, they're learning it. They're learning this world created by adults. You mentioned you thought that my answer would have been like the older grades, like fourth, fifth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I see the impact that I've made with fourth and fifth grades, particularly with my African-American boys. I work in a predominantly Caucasian school. Mm-hmm. And I understand my African-American boys because there's some things that they do or they say that I remember growing up and experiencing myself. So I understand and I can talk to them and be like, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're going through. I did the same thing. This is what happened, but this is how you deal with it. And if you want to talk to me or, get some more resources, or if you want better guidance, come and talk to me. And I built relationships with them and they know they feel comfortable. But I see now why I finally acknowledge, okay, I'm going to take on this role as a teacher. I finally submitted, because I see how I'm being used, utilized to African-American boys, and then even your children, period.
Yes.
But like even the non-African-American or, just like Caucasian, whatever race, I see my position there is changing the way they perceive or could be perceiving us or even their parents. Like I wear a suit and tie as an art teacher. I wear a suit and tie every day. And but it changes their perspective. The way I carry myself, the way I talk, it changes their perspective. So like I can see now how just my role, and it's insignificant, but it is impactful too. I see it now in the elementary school or just a school environment, that influence.
I must acknowledge you for your conscious choice and willingness to be that African-American male for your students.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
I remember The second brother I interviewed, Danny Almeida, a friend of mine also, he's a college professor now, but he told me that he didn't, and I'm probably going to mess it up like exactly when, but I know that he didn't have an African-American male instructor. At the earliest, it was high school, but I'm pretty sure in his interview, it was college before he had an interaction with a Black male who was an educator for him. And the difference that made for him.
Yeah.
Imagine going your whole K-12 and all your teachers are female, or if they are male, they're white, but you're a Black male. So what does that say about what education is? You know, who belongs? So I just really appreciate who you are for the students you interact with. It's huge.
I appreciate that. And I equally reciprocated.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of changing lives, what is a conversation, moment, or event that changed the trajectory of your life, besides ones you've already shared?
This is a person I deeply loved. I was in a relationship, and I was very immature, and the actions were my actions pushed her away, and I didn't realize that I really loved this person. I didn't know how to love somebody. I didn't grow up with that. Like my parents are, we're from Chad, and they raised me the way their parents raised them, and it's very strict, and we're not strict, but just like foreign. I don't know how else to explain it. They just like they're talking, but it sounds like they're yelling at you, but they're just talking to you, in a way where it seems commanding. So I didn't grow up with my dad or my mom saying, "I love you, I'm gonna give you a hug," and all that, And I was being raised in the United States. It was conflicting. I would see my friends. I'd be like, I couldn't understand how they had a relationship with their parents. I was just like, how can you be friends with your parents? I always saw my parents as these, like, the principal kind of, like I can't be friends with them. I have a respected fear, but I can't be friends with them, So anyways, I'm going on a rant, but it's having lost this person that led me into this really deep, dark depression. It took me 4 years to get out of that depression. But in that 4 years, I was like in the muck and the mire. It's almost as if I was detached and put back together, while alive. Like, if you can imagine how painful that'd be. I wanted to die so many times. I tried to kill myself one day and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So when that happened, I was like, okay, there's a reason. Something, I'm not supposed to die right now. It's weird because I should be dying right now, that just led me to seek a spiritual power. It led me to seek the Almighty. For me, that's what I consider the source, whatever you want to call it. But there's the infinite source. I was like, there's no person, no physician that can heal this traumatic experience or traumatic pain that I'm going through, and I need some spirituality, something stronger. And that's when I was just like, I had a City of God moment in the movie. The guy just, there's a character who hides from the police, and he has this epiphany to go to church. And one day that same thing. I remember I was selling clothes in Baltimore one day. That's what I do on the side sometimes, at a farmer's market. And I was splitting the tent or the space with another friend. And the friend was like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" I was just down the whole time, and because it was fresh. And one day I wanted to cry, but it wasn't coming out. And I just said out to myself, I was just like, I need to go to church. I'm going to church. And I told that friend, I'm not doing this no more. I'm going to just start going to church. And I started going to church. And that's when I became very spiritual, and then I started to experience spiritual things, kind of ghostly feelings on my skin, or premonitions, or manifestations of thought, synchronicities, all that stuff. And that it humbled me, and it made me spiritual, and it made me a better person, and it allowed me to become empathetic, very empathetic. I can feel people's pain. I can look at them, and I have this sense, I know, I just feel for them, and this is where the mantra I introduced earlier, seek to understand before being understood. This situation, that dark time, led me to understand, or to adopt that mantra. to, work with people and just kill the ego. Because I had a really big ego, a bad ego back then. I didn't know how to let go and try to see the other person's perspective. So, it's a blessing. It sucks. I just don't understand when people be like, it's going to get better. I was like, no, it's not. But it did. And I'm glad it happened. It sucks having gone through it. But like, I'm so glad because now I don't have this fear no more. I know that there's this greater, for me, because I experienced it, that there's a greater realm, power. There are multiple realms that coexist in our realm. And I've experienced it in my waking life and in my sleep life, or that it's real for me. So the blessing out of this, that tumultuous time that I went through.
Giving up, you're the surrender. You're like you're at your wit's end, and there's nothing that you can turn to that's going to provide the relief. It's not even comfort, just relief. And so in that moment of great despair, if you manage to be unable to succumb to it, because that's what I heard you say, is like you were trying to succumb to it, but you weren't able, then all that's left is this space where you have to acknowledge that something else has gotten you through. And once you have that connection to something beyond me, when it comes to you from that level of despair, you can't shake it. It's with you,
It
so
is.
I get that.
Yeah. It's left an indelible mark on my life.
Yeah, that's best words for that. Thank you for sharing all of that. I feel like it's something that only happens when you're under 30, like really under 25, because that's when it's so significant. Whereas after that, if that's your first heartbreak, you've already had enough life experience around surviving.
Yeah.
But when you lose that love of your life before 25, it's so real.
Yeah, it was rough, but I'm glad I got through it. And now I'm able to help others. I've been able to help other men, because it's hard. And, we think we're strong, but the male ego is very, very weak. And when our ego is destroyed, we think we're tough, but no, we're not,
Speaking of this idea of being tough and all that, I love this question because I ask, what is a moment that either highlights or signifies your experience as a Black man in the United States?
I mean, I experience this every day, but I just know, like, in the back of my mind, or this is what I believe or think in my mind, is that I am envied. And at the same time, I'm a threat to most due to my complexion and my background. It's a trick, I remember I've been tricked to believe that I was inferior. Right. That I needed to, like, I remember I wanted to change my complexion because I thought it was ugly. I was told, or I believed that I was, ugly or not attractive, not sought after and everything, because I grew up in a society that, where the European traits were more favored. But then once I developed knowledge of self and I started to dig for truth and like learning, getting into like obscure historical information, or listening to a lot of like speakers, intellectuals. At one time I was listening to some a lot of Khalid Muhammad. He was like a very militant Nation of Islam, Fruit of Islam guy, but I just loved like his positioning. You can tell he had a sound foundation of who he was or who he is and where he came from. And once I obtained that, that's when I learned, it's not that they don't like me. They want to be like me, or like they want to, there's something about the people that resemble me or our background that they want, but they don't want to acknowledge that they want that, but at the same time they are doing it, so like, I don't know, I get like, I'll say this. I just feel like I'm a threat to people, that don't look like me. So if I go to a grocery store, like Whole Foods, for instance, It's like like I said before, I can feel people, I can feel their energy. I can feel how they're feeling. I could just feel it. And
Yeah.
people feel nervous or like there's this envy, it's envy. And that's how I know. And I'm the one that gets it the worst because of my complexion. I'm like at the end of the spectrum. Wherever I go in the world, I have to understand this is how they're going to perceive me. And if I don't speak a certain way, or if I don't dress this way, then all these bullets and all these missiles are going to come at me, like through their eyes or whatever, So I guess I hope I was able to answer this question, but like, that's how I know. Those are moments that I know, like, black man, in the United States, also in Dominican Republic and Brazil too. I had moments where the self-hatred for them of, like, I'll say in Dominican Republic, the self-hatred, the black self-hatred, they don't embrace the black in them. Yeah, and I've been there, and I know I look like a Haitian, and they have bad history between each other, the Haitians and Dominicans, but I remember getting treated a certain way until I started speaking English, and when they heard me speak English, they're like, "Oh, okay, you can come in here. You can come here. You got money."
Right. Oh, you're not Haitian? Okay, you fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah,
We'll forgive your dark skin.
Yeah, exactly. The money is what you're gonna leave here, so it doesn't matter. But those are moments that I know that remind me, okay, all right, I'm not whatever it is. I'm not.
At the very beginning, as you answered that question, what I really heard was a double-edged sword of being envied and feared.
Yeah.
And it had me just imagine the walk that is in the world, because even as a Black woman, like there is a certain amount of threat that can be experienced when a Black woman goes into stores, but it's not the same level of fear. And so, and I would say also not the same level of envy. I'm just appreciating the two-sidedness. I've heard brothers many times mention, the experience of being feared, but that it is the back or front side of the hand of being envied, like.
Yeah. Yep, that's good. I like that. You said the back and the back and front. That's like that's a great like metaphor, even. That's
right?
A visual metaphor. It makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's deep right there. Yeah.
And I asked, this podcast started inside of my upset around only hearing about brothers' lives after tragedies, in particular, interactions with law enforcement. And there's no requirement that you share a negative story at all, because I don't want every brother to have a horrible story. But I do ask each brother to share an interaction that stands out or their experience overall with law enforcement in the United States.
Yeah, so I haven't had really bad experience with law enforcement in the U.S. The only time I'm gonna say this, but in Rio de Janeiro, that's always been the case there. I had like a classical conditioning experience down there where I had a cop draw a gun at me. He was at like a post, a standing post, just monitoring the streets. And I was just unraveling my towel coming from the beach. And he just came out. And it was a Black cop. He came straight out. And in Portuguese, he said, "Unravel that right now." And he pointed the gun at me. It was a silver gun. And I was like, I'm going to die. But this happened. I've had police stop me multiple times and try to like bribe me, or they had their gun at me, or like, those are the traumatic experiences that I had with police, law enforcement, but not here. I can't say here. Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
No, you know what? I appreciate what you have shared, because it points to the colorism that pervades society dominated by European or European descended leaders. And I actually, like I said, I really appreciate what you're sharing. I'm glad that you did not have those experiences in the United States, but likewise disappointed to hear that you had a U.S., can I say U.S.-esque experience, abroad.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. This is something that they experience to this day. They got police murders or whatever, police brutality. That like you say that down there, yeah, it exists. But like, I thought of this. I was like, when is like the Black Lives Matter or like when are things like that going to occur down there? And I'm sure they've tried, but that government is like, oh no, we're going to shut it down. That's not happening here. You guys can't make that happen here, you know? Right. And I think I'm like, what if that occurred down there? What type of difference? Like how would they like operate differently? What changes would be made? You know, like how would the perception of us be what would change like perceptually like down there as like you know, I'm just very curious, you know. But going back to your question, like there have been times where I was profiled. I'll say that, you know, I used to have locks at the time. A lot of guys were growing locks. So like I was at a gas station, and then all of a sudden these like a bunch of cop cars just came around my car, and they're like, "Hey, you fit the description of, you know, some male, and I don't know." And I was just like, I showed them my ID, all that. I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, and they left me alone. But I had to think about that because it's been a decade since that happened.
If I had to rename this podcast, it's not a flattering renaming, but it would be "You Fit the Description."
Yeah. Right. That's a good one. I like that.
This one brother, he said he was recounting incidents that had happened to him, and he wasn't trying to be funny, really. He said, there's a guy who's we suspect has been going in and robbing places, and he's between 5'3" and 6'8". And I couldn't help it. I just started laughing because of the ridiculousness of it and the truth of it, right? Yeah. And thank you for everything that you shared. If the United States was a woman, with whom you could speak, whether she's a mother, lover, stranger, neighbor, friend, you call it, what would you say to her?
Why have you been and continue to be ruthless to people who look like me? That's if you're asking if the United States was a woman, right? If it was like the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that's how I would imagine. I would imagine the Statue of Liberty, and I would ask the Statue of Liberty, like, you don't really symbolize liberty, you know? And this is the reason why. Not everybody here is liberated. You know, there are people who are strategically and systematically placed in cells or like housing projects, developments that don't know how to escape. They're trapped, you know, they're not free, and they're mad and they're angry. It leads them to commit crimes because they want to survive. And in order for them to survive, they got to commit these crimes, or they have to think what's the fastest way I can get whatever resource. So I think that's the like question I would ask is like, why us? Why are we still like the victims? You know, why are we still the victims? That, like, seriously, like I think about that, like, how is that possible? You know, how is that still possible that, let's say 600 years, we used to be this exotic place that Europeans would come and visit, and we had diplomats, you know, that would come and interact between Europe and Africa. And then one day a set of Europeans come and they're like, oh, we're taking these people, you know, and then it became the norm. And then at the same time, it was like, okay, how can we psychologically break these people down and keep this in the system so that our children or whatever, the generations that come after us can maintain what we established? I think about that. And these are questions I would want to ask, the United States or America. You know, I'd also want to ask, like, what does America mean to you? What is it? But the states are not united, you know, they really aren't, although they say they are. So
you've got my mind pinging with lots of thoughts as well. In particular, the last thing you said about the states not being united. I don't think we've experienced division such as we have today, red and blue. I don't think we've had a division as deep since the Civil War. But now we can't unite about what we should do with Ukraine, but that's another story. Don't want to get political.
Yeah, you can't. Don't touch that. Yeah.
So what is a moment that exemplifies love to you? And I know there are so many, so I'm not asking you for the best moment that is love, but what is a moment that exemplifies love to you?
Like this goes back to my students. My students don't see color, and I see them interact and how there's like they share. And like I've seen like one there was a pair of students, like girls, and one was black, one was white, and they just were hugging each other. They like, you can see that they really loved each other. You know, they're like, that's like their sister, almost like their sister. I remember they would just share things, and they would invite other students in, you know, and just like the love was there. It was just present and it was radiating. And they exemplify that. Like every day, children are love. They know nothing but love. But as they get older, that starts to get skewed and, skewed in their minds. But like they exemplify love every day. It's unconditional. They don't hold it against you unless somebody taught that to them in their life, you know. But like they forget. Children forgive and forget. And that's what I'm trying.
Right? They'll be like, "I'm not talking to you," and then
yeah. Oh gosh, I'm experiencing that at work now with two people. I'm like, what? This is crazy. You know, it's uncomfortable, and I can feel it. You know, I'm like, you're gonna do this to me? Like, I'm gonna just still act like, you know, I'm gonna still show you love and be the person that I am. I'm trying not to listen to my ego, but it does hurt. But you know, like, you know, it does hurt. But yeah, we just forget how we're still children, just in big bodies. You know, the child never left our body. Yeah, we forget that.
Love that you said that. I catch myself marveling at things, being fascinated by things. And sometimes I feel, honestly, I'll feel like, Robin, it's a little inappropriate for you to still be like looking at a bug going, "Oh my God,
that's great. You get the child innocence, you know, and you're curious, you know. That's what we should do. It'll help us be happier.
I know it would. I know it would. Nearly the end here, either from your life experiences or from being an educator, from your professional experience, what is something that you think more people should know, but at least in your estimation, they don't seem to get?
I just wish people knew that they are spiritually powerful, like that they can act in power, that these so-called psychics or whatever, you know, people who can channel and stuff, everyone can do it. It's just some people are more advanced, you know, they're just like they're more, you know, naturally able to tap into that side, and others have to work at it more. It's just like all the hobbies or like the sports or the things that we practice, the crafts that we learn, you know, it's just like that. Nobody's born being able to throw a football right away, right? You still got to practice, but eventually you'll get good. So I feel like if people knew that spirituality was real, that spiritual power is real, and you can access it, it's around you, it's flowing through you, it's all around the earth. You can astrally plane, all that. It's like society's been taught that it's like Jedi, you know, it's false, it's hocus pocus. But like I wish people would know that government officials practice and know this stuff. You know, they go to other countries and go and tap into, you know, the healers or all that. You know, the people with money, they are the ones who tap into it and invest in that. But like
our CIA invest in that.
Oh yeah. With the MK Ultra and all that. You know, I'm not trying to get too deep, but you know, like they
FBI, they have groups that practices like. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm about to get loud again.
Doing all that. I know. But I think that's what I try. That's something I like. I pride or love to share, you know, or try to like help people see. It's like remove the scales from your eyes, like if you can, but like to understand that there is this other thing. There's power, there's beings, there's like, we're not the only thing, you know, we're not the supreme beings at the top of the food chain, you know, like humble yourself and understand that you can tap into that energy and it's flowing through you all the time. And there is a spiritual realm, you know, that you can connect to.
We're spiritual beings having a material existence.
Exactly. That's what I was told years ago. Yeah, that's right. So that summarizes what I was trying to say. You know, if I could say that to everybody, you're a spiritual being having a physical experience, a material experience.
Mm-hmm. So now that you and I have had this conversation, what did you get for yourself personally out of having this conversation?
Man, I got just a plethora of confidence and just like connection, like I feel, recently I haven't been able to connect with a lot of adults around me. And I spend a lot of time by myself too, because it's a limited amount of people that I can connect with, I try to talk to other people, but it doesn't go past a certain point. It's kind of superficial, surface level stuff, but like having one, I love the questions you asked. Like these are questions I wanted to write down and ask my students or just other people. Really good questions. Yeah. But like, it's just very, very invigorating to speak to someone who is conscious and in all levels, all areas, and like having a very fruitful conversation. I feel filled. I'm not tired. I don't want to go to sleep yet. I'm very I'm pumped. I'm excited. I just feel renewed. I feel like I went to church or something. And I don't know, I feel very I believe in myself, or like I'm just very pumped, full of energy. I just feel great. This was a very great opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because I've been so blessed to cultivate a group of friends where when I interact with them, it's nice to leave a conversation enlivened. As opposed to walking away going, yeah, I know it does suck, doesn't it? Yeah, all right.
Yeah. You're funny.
And,
oh my
and
God.
So I appreciate that. And I have to tell you, because I always end every interview sharing the impression that I've been left with of the brother that I've interviewed. And early on, compassionate came up, but I realized you said it yourself. It is a global, empathetic spirit. That's who you are. A globally empathetic spirit. It's not just you connecting to other adults, but it's the way that you connect with the kids, the way that you connect with people in other countries, and even the way that who you were when you were in Brazil, you got to connect with the people from the movie City of God. It's just very clear that you are the vibration of humanity connecting.
And I get that a lot from people. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I get the vibes there. You're like, you bring good vibes. Because I like at my school, I'm like, what is it that you guys see in me? Because they're like, I got hired through the school. Like I didn't have to go through an interview or anything, because I used to work there before, and then I left, and they just from like credit, I don't know, like supporters, I just seamlessly. And I was just like, why did you guys want me to work at this school? Like and in this position, and outside of just being, being able to do art. And one of the administrators was like, your vibes, man. It's your vibes. It's the positive energy that you bring. And I was like, okay, I can see that. And that's what I bring to the school every day. Like I try to uplift everyone, because you never know what people are going through, and it's just good to spread love that way. Because when you do that, now you just purify the air, and it's contagious, and now it's it's likely to flow and onto another individual, or that individual that you spread love to is going to do the same thing to someone else, but I just like having a fun environment. I don't want no drama. I just want to have fun.
Well, when you said, I'm just there to spread love, it's like that is very clear, palpable, and thank you for being a light worker.
Thank you. Thank you as well, because you are definitely a light worker. You're like you do multiple rays of flood lamp. You bring in all kinds, casting so much light to people. For real, you are.
Thank you.
I can see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. Certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.